In an attempt to hit a milestone in the nation's journey towards economic prosperity, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu has signed an executive order on oil and gas reforms. According to the presidential spokesperson, the reform will revolutionize the industry, improve investment climate, and position Nigeria as preferred investment destination, especially for the oil and gas sector in Africa. Although the presidential spokesperson says details of the policy directives are yet to be gazetted and communicated by the Federal Minister of Information and National Orientation, the special advisor to the president on energy has, however, been directed to coordinate relevant stakeholders in oil and gas sector to ensure the implementation of the directives within a stipulated time frame. There are major concerns arising from this. What are the key regulatory framework? How will the regulatory mechanisms be strengthened for increased transparency and accountability? Beyond these, creating an investor-friendly environment to attract foreign capital is also very essential. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ikaria Clinton, and this is Nigeria Today. Joining us in the studio is an energy expert and a senior lecturer based University Abuja, Dr. Abubakar Alkali. It's good to have you on Nigeria Today.
Good to see you.
Also with us here in the studio is another energy expert and a public affairs analyst, Olabode Shomi. Thanks for coming on Nigeria Today.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here.
I'll start with you, Dr. Abubakar, the executive order that was just signed by the president. Now, explain to us what it means, as in break it down in simple terms, and the impact it will have on the oil and gas industry.
Okay, thank you very much, Cheria. Well, the executive order actually, to some extent, is a response, to some of the goings on in the industry today, where investors, are not very happy. Some of the IOCs are actually divesting, divesting their, their investments in the sector because of some of the unfavorable, investment climates. So the government now thought it wise to now respond by, bringing in some policies that will, discourage the investors, the IOCs, as it were, from leaving the country. It's like saying you want to go, but please don't go. This is what I will do for you. So basically, it's about, bringing in some kind of fiscal reforms, including some tax, rebates, okay, and then also speeding up the process of, contract implementation and some of these projects. And also the third one, boosting local content development in the industry, okay. So the government is saying, okay, let's put in some incentives so that these investors will not run away. But at the same time, let us also develop our local capacity. So that's three. Fiscal framework, okay, which includes taxes, rebate on taxes, and then speeding up the contracts implementation is now actually earmarked for 6 months. These contracts have to be concluded, within 6 months. That's now a time frame, okay. And then the third one, local content. How do we encourage our local investors, okay, to develop capacity? Because at the end of the day, it is your local investors that you want to run the, you want to hand over the industry to, because some of these things are happening because we don't really have control, over the industry. So that said, I think also it has raised some questions. The new executive order has raised some questions. one of the key questions is the issue of the PIA. If we have the PIA and the PIA is working, so why do we need an executive order? Okay, it means there is a gap. There is an issue with the implementation or consolidation of the gains of the PIA. So, because PIA is supposed to have covered all of this, honestly, there is the fiscal framework, covered under the PIA.
So, Doc, I'll have to stop you here. And I know you have quite a lot to say, talking about the PIA, but we'll get to that. I'll allow you to, voice your concerns. But before then, we want to hear Olabode Shomi to tell us what his thought on the executive order and how, of course, he thinks it will impact the industry.
Okay, thank you. So an executive order, by and large, is like a policy. It's not a law. So I mean, when it comes to issues that guide whether the industry or group of people, you have laws, which are products of the parliament. You have regulations, which are from the industry, from regulators and all that. And then you also have policies, which come from the executive and by and large. Laws by their nature are limited in terms of effective running. I mean, say for example, if you are going to give an incentive of 5,000 naira for cement manufacturers or cement buyers, that can only come in as a policy. It can't come in under a law. Because if you put that under a law and there's inflation or the circumstances change, the nature of laws is that it must go through the same act of parliament to get it done. But a policy, on the other hand, can be decided by the executive committee of the industry leadership that decided it. To the best of my understanding, this executive order is a product of the meeting Mr. President had in Qatar. As most people may know, Qatar is by and large the top 5 gas nation in the world, not only in terms of technology, in terms of gas resources, and also in terms of investment capacity. You will recall that Qatar recently hosted the World Cup. They hosted the last World Cup, and it was done solely by internal funding, and 90% of that came from how they're able to maximize their gas resources. Qatar has indicated interest in some of our offshore gases that are currently being flared. You will recall that a lot of the gas being flared are associated gas, which means they are associated with oil. So the focus here is for non-associated gas. That is those fields that are not associated with oil. Now, the investors, to the best of my understanding, have indicated that there are certain limitations and challenges they find when they come to Nigeria, some of which are related to the fact that the fiscals, as spelled out by the law, can be interpreted one way or the other, which can now be interpreted in a way that will be to the disadvantage of those that are investing. They have also raised the issues of corruption and how officials of government can deliberately act as a clog in the wheel. So some of all that is what the policy, the executive order is trying to encapsulate. One of it is that it has put a time frame for the start of a contract to the end of it. In other words, no matter how much you want to pass the file around, the policy states that they must end it within 6 months. They have also given certain, they have also restricted the guidelines within which the fiscals can be interpreted. So all of this is meant to encourage certain people who have indicated interest in our oil and gas industry and who are willing to stake a risk in terms of technology, in terms of funding, to ensure that there is some relationship with us. Okay,
having had that now, Dr. Alkali, looking at the items on the executive order, the first one is introduction of fiscal incentive, which of course you rightly mentioned for non-associated gas, midstream and deep water development. Now, at present, anytime I hear gas, I really get interested. Because we always talk about our cooking gas and how expensive it's becoming right now. Now, looking at this situation, how would this impact the gas sector? Looking at the present cost of gas and the rest of them, what does the policy direction spell for the sector?
Yeah, well, to be honest, the gas sector is a very critical component of the industry. But I think it's not being given its due, you know, portion of investments or, you know, consideration, okay, in terms of reposition the industry. Because you find out that Nigeria is blessed with gas resources. But then I think most of the policies, you know, most of the investments have been towards oil, okay? Obviously, petroleum, you know, covers the two. So to give the gas sector its due respect, to be honest, there are certain decisions, certain policies that have to be put in place. If you ask me, the NNPC should be unbundled, okay? This is one critical reform that I think is necessary. NNPC should be unbundled to say, look, you have the oil, National Oil Company, NOC, that deals with oil-related investments, and then the National Gas Company. We actually have a national gas company in Nigeria, but it operates under the NNPC. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, just like you unbundle the DPR under the PIA, and you have the midstream, downstream petroleum regulatory authority, and you have also the upstream petroleum regulatory commission, you should also unbundle the NNPC and have gas as a standalone, the gas sector as a standalone, you know, in the industry. Because to be honest, the NNPC is very heavy, if you ask me. NNPC does gas, it does oil, okay, it does fuel subsidy. Yes, of course, some of the fuel subsidy decisions, it just joint ventures, okay? It does so many things. So that is why I keep saying that the way you unbundle the DPR, you should unbundle NNPC as well. You should have the gas aspect. The National Gas Company, there should be a gas you know, framework for the country. Oil should be separated. Oil operations, okay, should be separated from gas operations, and we can take advantage of some of these opportunities in the gas sector, okay, because most of the things going on are actually covered under oil. We know it has, you know, so many things to do in terms of even energy diversification, in terms of going towards renewable energy and all of that, moving away from fossil fuels. But as it is now, the oil investments have cornered all of this. And of course, as you rightly mentioned, if we have more gas supplies, more gas investments, obviously the demand, you know, will be lower, and we'll have we'll pay less money for our gases. Okay. Our gas.
Thank you very much. Olabode, you know, of course, this is not the first time we're having certain policies. We have quite a lot of laws. Like some experts will say, we don't lack policies, neither do we lack laws. But what we lack is the willpower to implement these. Now, how will these reforms be effectively implemented? On your opinion, what would you say about effective implementation and probably monitoring of these reforms to ensure that we achieve the desired goals? Okay,
so the laws, policies, and regulations of the oil and gas industry are no different from any other law. They're not different from the penal code. They're not different from the laws that affect marriage or anything. So when laws, policies, and regulations are enacted within the industry, there are law enforcement institutions whose statutory obligation is to ensure that laws are implemented. So, for example, you're a broadcast journalist. So when you wake up in the morning, you get to the office thinking about the latest in terms of broadcast, how you can impact lives, and the kind of things you do. So there are the same way there are people that wake up in the morning and whose duty is to ensure that laws are obeyed. If those people don't do their job, there is a limitation to what other people can do. You know, people can say other things and all that. And I say this because in one of the Western nations where we went to sometime in September last year, we found out that when you present a check, they don't verify it. They don't even check it. Once you write the amount, they just pay. So I asked that why is it like that? The country has a law that if you present a fake check, you go to 20 years in jail. There is no issue of connection and there is no begging. Because those laws are implemented, everybody respects themselves. In the same vein, when you look at Nigeria, I mean, we all travel, the same set of big man in Nigeria who at Abuja airport refuse to enter the queue, or at Lagos airport is bullying everybody else. Once he gets to Heathrow or he gets to Frankfurt, is part of the queue. Because the environment does not condone lawlessness. One of the things is that because this is a system, everybody should do their part. So if you talk about system, there are a of systems in the body. We talk about the respiratory system. If the nose is blocked, no matter how big your lungs, they cannot function. We talk about the digestive system. If you don't have saliva and you eat food, nothing to start the digestion, or your mouth is blocked, or your stomach is worried, or it's, so every part of that system must function. The law enforcement agencies should do their job. The lawmakers have made laws. The operators who are stakeholders to implement or work within those laws will do their activities. It is possible that some of them will contravene in those laws, either knowingly or unknowingly. But those who are saddled as institutions to ensure that laws are obeyed should also do their job. So we should stop expecting those whose primary duty it is not to enforce laws to be the ones to do it. Let everybody do their job. That way the system can function.
Actually, Doc, you heard what you said. I know in one of your write-ups you talked about our weak regulatory agencies. Yes. And of course you... So, in your own opinion, I want to get your own opinion on this. How do we ensure that we, achieve, sustainable development in these sectors? Because it doesn't just stop at policies, laws, but then something has to be done for us, to achieve what, we set out to achieve.
Yeah, exactly. I think, to be honest, Nigeria is potentially, an investor's choice destination. Yeah, all the potentials are there, the resources are there. People want to come to Nigeria, but you see, the problem is the climate, the investment climate. You see, it's not favorable. I think this is the issue. You see, investors want to come to Nigeria, but because of the way we operate, the way we do things, you recall that the president had to even publicly, warn people that collect bribes before they do things.
Sorry, I'll have to stop you here, Doc. We'll take a short break now to listen to the views of Nigerians on the issue of discourse. Please stay with us.
The executive order by the president is a very good and welcome development because I actually believe that this order will go a long way to manage the situation on ground about the fuel and gas.
It's a good thing if it can promote the economic of the nation and if it can really create job for the unemployed and if it can really affect lives.
That's a good one. At least it will enhance accountability, as in it will bring investment confidence. You know, foreign direct investment into that sector is very key, and then there's no investor that want to come and invest in such a massive space like that without accountability.
The middle class have also joined in the using of gas, and now gas has gone to a high level. And for him to have interceded, I think he still wants to define the difference. So it's a very welcome idea, but I expect further, my own advice is that with this step he has taken, let him be more so that the House can pass this kind of reform under the gas and petroleum bill.
Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today. We are looking at the executive order on oil and gas reforms, and I have two gentlemen, two energy experts here with me in the studio. Now, Dr. Alkali, you were saying something.
Yes, yes.
Somebody even mentioned the investment.
Exactly. Very harsh
yes.
investment climate. As I was saying, the president had to publicly, warn some of our officers who collect bribes before they do things. So, you see, yes, every law is actually more or less the same. However, you see, there is something very sensitive about the law, about laws in the petroleum industry. Very sensitive in the sense that this is the live wire of the economy. Okay, about 90% of Nigeria's resources come from this sector. So it means if the sector is down, we are simply in a big problem. So you actually find out that sometimes your life where I've seen some countries where there are special laws for their major revenue earner. Yes, special laws. Okay, and another thing also that is peculiar to the oil and gas industry is this is not about bureaucracy. It's not about the bureaucracy. It's that's what investors want to see. That is why they actually insisted on a time frame, which has been included in the executive order, 6 months. Okay, whether that is going to be possible or not, time shall tell. Now, no investor will come and sit down and face the kind of bureaucracy that we have. And that is why, if you ask me, why do we have a Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources? Why? Why? You have the NNPC, you have the National Oil Company, you have these corporations. Why do we have even the ministry, the minister? For me, there is no point, Mr. President, holding that post of petroleum minister, to be honest. And then again, I want to say this, if you don't mind.
Thank you very much. I want Olabode to say something about, talking about the reforms, how will those reforms impact the Nigerian economy and, of course, its citizens, if well implemented?
Okay, so if well implemented, we're expecting greater income by virtue of foreign direct investment. But more importantly, rather than just the money coming in, you're going to see projects taking place. Projects taking place are even much more important than the foreign direct investment, because the projects provide jobs and they provide side businesses. Say, for example, they start to work on an offshore rig, means that they are going to employ people who that are not being employed. And you know the way employment is, for one person, there are about 4 or 5 people connected. Then there are people who are going to offer them support services. Accountants will offer them services, even janitorial services. People will clean the toilets and the places, and of course people will supply food. So there's a whole chain of activities that support that. So importantly, we need to keep looking at things as systems. Once this is done, it's a whole chain of improving the value chain, in addition to forex that is deeply needed to ensure that the nation survives and even prospers.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll wrap up today's episode of Nigeria Today. But before we draw the curtain, a very big thank you to our guest and energy expert and a senior lecturer, Hayes University, Abuja, Dr. Abubakar Alkali. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts.
Always good to be here.
And also Olabode Shomi, another energy expert and public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution.
Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you for being part of the program. Don't forget, Nigeria Today is weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also watch these and other episodes on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thank you for watching. I am Ikaria Clinton saying bye for now.